still in the happy valley of the farming game. It's a pretty day out. I should be outside, but it's not always pretty. It's like it just got sunny, and I don't know. There's a lot of cloud out there. I know that I should be outside walking or even just doing yard work or something, but then I think, I just don't care. So, we did an overview of where the standings were at the end of, I guess it's number 2 video. And now we're just on this kind of long path towards, hey, what's going to happen? How are you going to get your money together, etc., you know, to get to the 250 total value. We see probably the highest value is around 75,000. I think that's blue, which is kind of surprised me. I didn't think of them as doing all that well, but they have these extra cows, which is kind of nice, and a fair amount of cash. And speaking of blue, they're going to have to go into investment mode. They have some extra cash on hand. Seems like a good time to try to turn things over, because in this game, the more stuff you have, the less you're impacted by sort of the bad stuff. And this doesn't look right. Oh boy. That is saying that I managed to get both hay and grain advantage, and I don't think I got either. But I'm not sure. This is really annoying because I don't know. When did I bought that extra hay a while back, so I can pretty much say these were wrong. One of them might have been right. Maybe the grain one was right. Did red actually get a corn advantage? You know, I don't know. I was probably in such a hurry to get everybody moved around here that I missed their initial bonuses. But how many of them did I miss? Well, I'll tell you one that I didn't. Green. Green's been stuck in this kind of loop all game. So I'm going to reset red and blue. I may be screwing them over illicitly. I don't know. But whatever. All right. Blue puts in a big investment in cattle. One of them, just the last 10 cows that I can have here. Somebody suggested you should be able to blow up the cows. That seems more like a Wabbit Wampage, Wabbit Revenge thing to have happen. Cow tipping probably wouldn't have much effect on the game, but considering spherical cows might. Anyway, I also grabbed the Rattlesnake Ridge here, so now I have like, what, 70 cattle. I'm a little low on money. I've just pumped my, I'm up to 50,000 in loans, and I'm at like 7,000 in cash. So there's some risk here. I'm hoping I can make it through. Otherwise, maybe I have to sell off a cow or something. And we start 1, 2, 3. Heavy rain, we got to start paying, and I'll start skipping until interesting things happen again. Red has a decent amount of cash. I think, wow, I can do Toppenish Ridge. This is the big cattle, holds 50. Get into that market really fast. And cattle, I mean, it's just this one small space, but it's got a capacity to produce pretty good payouts, just like the fruit does. Unfortunately, I would be really, really low on cash if I did that. But with all this cash, I got to do something. Now, I have Rattlesnake Ridge. That just got taken over. That card's basically useless. So I'm going to buy this grain, and that should be easy enough to do. It's a little bit of a penalty. White gets a really lousy hay cutting. Still makes a profit of 300 bucks, but He had all this material while it's halved, and then I got a shitty roll, and then I ended up having to pay $500. But you know, once you have enough land, you're largely insulated from the problems. Even when you roll a 1 and get nothing but penalties across the board. And I cheated, didn't I? No, I did not. With only one other player having a harvester, I would take advantage of my opportunity to buy a harvester. I have a tractor available too, but I think I want to spend my money on other things instead of that. The cost isn't that heavy for needing one, and that's basically what I would be covering, because I wouldn't be getting that good a share anymore with 2 people having them. Eventually, everybody's going to have equipment, probably. Just, you know, buying stuff counts towards your total value, and so it's good that way. And for green, they hit the spring planting. Hey, they made it out without hurting their back this time. And now everything's doubled. Well, corn, not wheat. Wheat doesn't get doubled. So back around. Red lost money on their hay cutting though, and they both have 20 acres under cutting. For blue, it was harvester, $2,000. Hey, could buy there, right? You know, made up some of the money anyway. And for red, it was paying interest on this big loan. And, you know, didn't lose a lot, but. And for yellow or brown, brown held off on buying. But blue just pulled this one. You get $2,000 from each player who doesn't have a harvester. That, if you have one. Unfortunately, I have no equipment, but yeah, there's things like that in there to help you out through it. Brown may be considering buying fruit. I don't know. You'd be the first person into it. The good bell ringer here. Hit here doubles the hay cost, or hay harvest. He has a lot of it. This is white. He had 2, 3, 4 to begin with. That puts him up to 80 acres, so I just doubled the 40 acre. Got a maximal roll, 24,000. Unfortunately, I got a $3,000 operating expenses, but that still drops me, you know, that still keeps me at like 21,000. That's huge. And again, you know, I mean, so much luck in it, but whatever. And I got to reshuffle my operating expenses, which means things like the tractor and harvester allocations and everything are all randomized again. The rules don't say you reshuffle. They just say put it at the bottom of the deck. I don't like that, because then it means that you will actually remember what the patterns are and can account for them maybe somehow, kind of, sort of. And I don't think that fits the spirit of the game at all. It also doesn't say not to reshuffle, not to put them upside down at the bottom. You know, it all depends what you're used to playing, how you want to interpret that. Back end of things, yellow landed here. I forgot to draw my farmer's fate for it, fuck. Well, the company pays you $100 per acre. That I didn't count on. I'm ahead of that, but so I've got 40 acres, so that's $4,000. That'll help. But I actually lost money because I did the 4th hay cutting. Just the expense came out bad. Then brown landed here after purchasing. I chose not to go with the fruit. I purchased more cows and more grain. Stay consolidated. It reduces, you know, your exposure. Really, I think the question is whether you start with cows or fruit, in terms of like, you want to play one out, and I already had some cows, so it only made sense. And these should be over here. Gotta check. Looks like I'm not keeping things in the right place. That's wheat, not hay. Green did their hay cutting, and they actually got a fair amount of money, not just 1,000 from here, but a maximal roll. But they did have to pay a little bit of a penalty on it. Kind of want to stop for a while. Blue opens up with that collect wheat and made a couple thousand, and then fly around the board. You know, here's the thing. Think about Monopoly. Okay, I don't know what passing go even represents in that, but here it's very clearly a time passing thing. Moreover, the entire board is time passing. I can tell you one that has time passing where it's clearer than Monopoly, but less clear than this, is fast food franchise, which I've also covered. Another roll and move. It doesn't disturb me as much in that somehow. Although it does have some of the same facets in play, because you pay your advertising as you pass certain things. You have to make your choices based on time. So that's one. Careers has sort of a similar, where time is directly reflected on that. It's very, very disturbing though in this, because so much of the board is time-based, right? You know, farming is all about timing and the passage of time and whatever. And it just irks me more in this game than it would in most roll and moves. Although honestly, it probably does disturb me a tiny bit in these other ones. In this one, it feels like it's just gone too far. Anyway, on with other folk. Order hop, which got me from here, where I didn't get to harvest because I was here, over to Harvest Moon, doesn't bother me anywhere near as much. That's almost okay, you know, there's a reason it's hot, and, you know, just trying to get those extra harvests through makes sense that you wouldn't want to get it. This is a huge bonus for white to hit. First of all, he has 40 cows, and he has this plus 50%, and I did the calculation, and now I lost it. Unfortunately, he rolled a 1. That ended up being 88,400 minus 1,500. The sequence, Brown decided to hell with it and sprang for the 5 acres of fruit. I'm sitting here. I'm like, you know, why not? I still have almost $10,000 in hand. I'm fully leveraged though, so yeah. Time around, first things first, option to buy was run out. Blue landed on it. I had to shuffle it. The deck's gotten small enough that shuffling doesn't really make sense. It's like 7 cards. So I do my weird little die roll shuffle. I mean, I scramble the cards a little bit, but then I do a die roll shuffle to make sure that I'm not subconsciously influencing things. One of those weird things that I'm always convinced of, because first of all, there's magicians who can do that, you know, so my subconscious could probably do it to some extent. And to some extent. Consciously, I can control die rolls pretty well. I used to pretend that it was like some mystical thing, but the honest fact is you can kind of flip a die in a certain way and increase the odds greatly. So I made these statements like, if I take 6 dice and throw them all, always one of them would come up a 6, and people would be like, no, that's not true. And then I just proceed to prove it again and again and again. I'd usually get it on the first 3 or so. But anyway, outside of that, and it had to do with the way I load them in my hand and the way I throw them. And I toss them and they look like real tosses. And they kind of are. They're just weighted a little bit more. Brown, out of everybody, hit here, ended up, remember they're a little low on money after buying that fruit, ended up getting a half check and getting screwed out of a couple thousand more bucks. So I'm running kind of on the low end, about 6,000 now. Around the board again for people. Why is yellow here? He's got his 6,000. He made his way around. I don't know if that was just now. I don't know. I lost. I feel like I skipped his turn. I think I did. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he got the hurt back. I don't know. I'm not going to give him another roll. Brown got lucky to make up for that kind of crappy hay. Hit here. A moderately good roll on one hay, $9,000. Ended up $8,500 because of the cost card. And nothing else too exciting. This was positive $2,500 or so. But fruit is very, very rewarding. Very rewarding. Now, better than the livestock, a little better on the high end. But again, there's nastiness that happens to fruit. There's nastiness that happens to cows too. As you saw, I had to slaughter 20 of them for somebody. Option to buy deck, beginning to run down. Nobody has the extra cash. Part of that is because I flipped these guys over. These are the guys who are fully leveraged, 50,000 in loans. And there's just, you know, it's really hard when you got to come up with all the cash yourself. It's so much easier when you're putting down 20% on and buying the rest on margin. And he's still here. Drew a farmer's fate that threw him back there. This time it's definitely supposed to be there. Well, assuming the last time was. Brown on wheat. He's got doubled, fuck me. He does not have doubled wheat. He has doubled corn. I thought I had a bell ringer here. He rolled like a 4, which got him, no, not a 4. He rolled a 6, which got him 28,000. But it's actually 14,000, which means I owe 14,000 of that. And he lost a little bit off of that. Further on, Blue made okay money here. Red got the 4th hay cutting in. Actually got a good roll, getting it at 4,400. Got the tractor card, but I'm bonused by that. But also a farmer's fate that cost him pretty much the entirety of the hay harvest, but still not losing money. And as long as you're not losing money, it's not bad. You know, there's plenty of spaces that'll lose you money. So landing on, you know, a hay cutting that breaks even, you know, unless you have huge quantities of it, is probably not that big a deal. The rest of the way around, a nice about 10,000. Oops, did not get the farmer's fate there, crap. 7,000. Okay. Well, there it is, right on top. Close to 10,000 was gained in the corn, but I just lost it to the farmer's fate. That's life. Brown, just collecting money. I would already got my wheat. Green went into the wheat. Now they've got this shitty wheat card sitting on them, which gets reshuffled in if nobody pulls a farmer's fate before then, but if they do, I don't know when it gets reshuffled. Back to that in a minute. They actually came out ahead, even without a great roll. No, they came out even because they drew the harvester card and ended up paying 1,000 to the 2 players who each have a harvester. Reshuffling. So we used to play a lot of games that had cards in them, and I played with one guy in particular who had a rule about reshuffling, which was you had to define when a reshuffle had to happen, and his demand was always, well, he demanded we did one way or another, but he liked when the card needs to be drawn, which means if this comes up and there's no new card, you don't actually finish the reshuffle officially until somebody actually needs a card, which might mean you have to position it differently if you're partially shuffling, or somebody holds it and shuffles while, you know, until the next draw is needed or whatever. Various things like that. It is actually vaguely important, right? And I can see it's going to happen here, which is to say, I'm going to draw this. I'm not going to notice that it needs to be reshuffled until, for the most part, until a player needs to draw, in which case it works fine. But if I do notice, I probably will shuffle. And that means cards may end up on the bottom that don't get added into the deck, whatever. Crap like that. That means it's a good time for a break because, you know, I don't know where we are money-wise. I know we're not at 250. By the time people cross around here, who knows? But it's not going to be anywhere close to 250. The game has a fairly long tail on it. It feels like we've gotten over the hard part where people can get screwed and you could basically get yourself knocked out of the game very early. Unless you really screw something up, though, once you get to a certain size, your farm is largely invulnerable, which is why it's okay to have it so heavily leveraged. Because just like if the stock market's constantly increasing, or expected to increase in general, it's okay to be on margin a large amount on stocks. There might be some risk. This guy was at some risk by being down below the 10,000 or so. But once people are pulling in decent amounts of money, it's still probably better to have that pocket money than to start paying off your loans. You know, 20,000 or so is probably when you can start paying off loans. But the thing is, there are still option to buys, and there will be a continuous flow of them. So you have to be making income that's greater than everything you can buy. And, you know, some of these people are sitting on a pile of cards. So that's not going to be easy to happen. Around the players generally made decent money. A couple of hay cuttings. I don't know, one of them didn't count. The corn harvest was good. Yeah, you know. We're at the point where I don't know that there's that much to really discuss anymore. The OTBs are gone. I'm around where payoffs happened, which, well, he got his spring planting, so doubling his grain. Somehow or another he's doubled for corn. I don't know how that happened. He was down around here. Did I forget to turn them? I don't know, maybe. Has to be. Only hay could be doubled at this point. Unless I got a card, and I don't remember. I did the little trick sideways with the Farmer's Fate. Normally it's not an issue because people aren't holding them, but people were holding them for a while. Brown got some decent money, around 10,000 off their cattle, even though at the half spot. Green, on the other hand, lost a few bucks off theirs, but not too bad. And now we're at the point 246, not for him, but for these two, where they got to start considering purchases. They screwed up. This guy's corn was fine. It's this guy who was wrong. It's very easy for me to screw up the colors. Yellow close to here. Where's the border? Well, it's, I don't know, this fencing, I guess, but there's so many colors and confusion that it's just not easy to tell. So the borders ought to be highlighted a little bit more and not blend in as much as everything else. And the other colors should be muted, but that wouldn't fit the sort of color form blatant look. I don't mind the look that much. I mean, yes, it's hideous, but it's also kind of amusing in its own way. Anyway, I'm on yellow's turn. We had purchase of grain by both Blue. Well, Blue must not have bought grain. I thought they did. Maybe I bought somebody else's grain. I don't fucking know. I'm so fucking lost at this point. No, Blue just landed here. Yeah. Yellow and white purchased extra grain. And now yellow's hoping to roll a 2. And they do, and that's huge because by buying first, and I was in a good position to do so, all of these are now doubled for corn if I happen to get really, really lucky there. And we got some OTBs here. I'm leaving them unshuffled because, yeah, you know, people are going to be throwing a bunch of them out there until somebody needs one. And then I'll just have to use the die to select the ordering, basically. Got harvests. Neither one terribly good. This one was a pretty good roll, but it's only hay and he doesn't have a lot of it. Got to keep track of, you know, it's hard for me. I'm going to get confused as to whose farm's whose, and that's just going to happen. It's part of the burden of playing. It even happens when I'm playing opposed. Yeah. Because the boundaries are just, this is too de-emphasized and the boundaries are too de-emphasized. The important stuff is just not clear, and yeah. But that gave a little bit of extra pocket change to other people. Still have opportunities to buy more stuff, although yellow certainly is not going to. Blue may. I don't know how much cash he has. And the OTB's got rolled for. Somebody picked one up. Well, odd even. Which one did you get? The other one's face down now. Round. No cherry harvest for him. No purchases for either of these. Blue doesn't have enough cash to buy the things that they have options for. And they have no room for the cheap stuff. Yellow also short on cash. They could have bought some cows, but I don't want to add another type of thing at this point. I'm looking at like $10,000. I could have spent half, a little over that, but I could have spent half of it and added some risk to my situation, but it just doesn't seem worth it. I feel like I have a pretty good portfolio there, even if I'm not going to score on everything. It's better to like buy my 2 cows, you know, than to just buy one now. It's better to buy them both at once. I don't have the cards for both though, but I might, because they get recycled. Green got a corn harvest in, about $5,000. Brown missed his bonus corn harvest. I remembered to turn him correctly. Green did hit or red did hit that, and you know, $6,000. So it's not that terrible, but his grain, his corn would have been on the 40. 6,000 is a pretty low value. So chances were he'd be hitting up here, get more money. Plus, he goes around the Christmas vacation for 5,000 no matter what, so it doesn't really matter. Once green passes here, I'm going to do a count, and I don't think I'll be sending it up, but because I think the videos, I think I'm doing less video, but who knows. Decent cut here. White hit the wheat harvest and zipped around the board, missing all the stuff. Gotta remember, green's taking their good old time, making it forward with a 1 roll. Nothing but red decides to invest big on cattle. I buy one here, max out my loan, and buy Toppenish Ridge. I think that's the end of the opportunities to lease land with cattle on them. I got the biggest of them, so, you know, and I'm down to about 10,000 something, which is fine with that big investment in the cattle side of things. It puts me to white 2, 4, 6. Over here, white was totally thinking, totally wanted to buy some more grain, but I'm just a little short of being able to do that safely. Like, I'd be under 5,000 or so. So I said, you know, I just roll the die. Well, I end up on the double grain, double corn space. But, you know, corn is hard to hit. You may or may not have planted it. You know, you may give up halfway through the year. Who knows? Interesting, hey, you land somewhere, you get your hay, you decide to avoid the rest of the summer and go to harvest. That's kind of a great space if you have cows, because if you're really invested in them. Yellow is not invested at all in cows. No card, none of this. So, kind of a shame, because with 30 acres on grains, wheat would probably pay off. And with 20 in hay, it probably isn't too bad. I'm probably going to come out positive. Brown, nothing. Green landed on go, so they got the extra money. I'm going to come back with valuations. Work our way around. About 24 there, which means I'm at like negative 25. 2, 3, okay. 60 minus 25 puts me at like 35, 45, and 45, let's see, 55, and where's Rattlesnake? 65, about 70,000. I haven't really made any ground. Okay. Wasn't expecting that. 10 and change puts me to about negative 40, more or less. 40, 60, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. I don't remember now. 20, 40, 60, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. About 70,000 again. 10,000 for this, so say 80. So red's, I think, gaining some ground here on blue. I don't know what happened. 25 or so, so I'm at negative 25 for white. In cash, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 100. That puts me to 75. I've got some cattle too. 85, 95, so doing quite well actually. Yellow, 15 out of, okay, so that's negative 35 for yellow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 100 means I'm plus 65, plus 75, plus 85. 45, so I'm at like negative 5 for brown. Tons of money, just went around go. What did I say, negative 5, 1, 2, 3 is 60, 85, 95, 105. Minus 5 puts me at about 100. So probably in the lead, because this guy's not doing too well. I'm at 30. Minus 5, call it 25, whatever. Oh no, minus 15. So call it plus 15 for green. 20, 40, 5, so around 60 total. Now, his big deal is he hasn't leveraged his loans. And not because I couldn't, or not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't. I was never really in a position to leverage the money that I wanted to. And what you can see is by leveraging the loans, you end up with bigger totals. And it's basically just the more little stickers you have on the board, the better off you are. And this is not going to hurt you that much. But yeah, I mean, we're looking at about 100,000 for the top person, and it's to 250. Now, it probably speeds up a little bit, but I don't know. Yeah. All right, we're gonna pause there. If I've ever finished, I've only played this a couple of times, and I don't think I've ever finished a game of it. It's long. It really is. This is the first time I've played it solo, so more of a chance of that there. If somebody was clearly running away with the game, I would call it here. I kind of don't feel like I can do that. Plus, I'm really dragging my feet about Leipzig. Things up here. Blue got a kind of shitty turn, landed here, lost about $1,000 on the hay. Jumped over to here, which would probably be good with him with 70 cows, but a roll of a 1 and a tax, an interest rate due cut that down significantly. That could have been a huge, huge amount of money. I mean, it could have been over 50,000 in one roll. So, and instead it was about 4. Moving over to yellow, nothing too exciting happening in between. Lands here, and Mount St. Helens erupts again. It's going to be a fair amount of money. It's, $1,000 per acre for other people, but this guy's completely avoids it, so he gets $500 per hay acre, and I only gave him 1,000. That's wrong. That should be 10,000. I wonder if I did that wrong the first time. Because I think I probably did it right. I mean, in terms of game effect, whatever, it's not that big a deal. In terms of breaking my suspension of disbelief, it's tough. I mean, Mount St. Helens was a once-in-a-lifetime event, and just there should be a remove this card or something. It comes down to the game being too long for the event deck, and really all the decks, which is why they require reshuffling, but what can you do? Too much on the other side of that. I'm just moving through the, what used to be the danger zone, but now it really isn't, So this guy had fruit. He owed us $2,000. Well, he's got like 20,000 in hand as he makes it through here. When you only have 5,000 because it's the beginning of the game, you're in danger here. If you hold off purchasing, you're fairly safe to hold your 5, 10,000, whatever you want to complete the year with. It's one of my biggest gripes about the game is that there's nothing like a general downturn or whatever, which, first of all, makes things harder on all the farmers. The St. Helens is the closest thing. But more importantly, that, is kind of persistent, broad effects on prices, so like embargoes and stuff like that just last for years with their impacts, and there's just a whole lot. If you want to throw randomness in, it shouldn't just be oh, you're hit with this. Some of it may be, but so much of it is really something that affects farming as a whole. And the real thing is this feeling of kind of not making it a hard situation to get through. The early part of the game, yes, you could be screwed for the game very easily by some bad situations here, or throughout the whole board. If you don't come off of that first year doing well, you're at the very least going to be behind everyone else. And if you get really bad luck, you could go bankrupt, essentially. Well, even not the huge farms, perhaps, but even moderate-sized private farms, etc., have a problem. They're not right on the edge necessarily. It's not as devastating, but there should be a fair chance of massive effects, bringing the game to a fallow period where, and this is the other thing, you should have options as to how much of your land you want to put under growth and everything. There's just a whole lot of opportunities that this game could have explored that it didn't bother to, right? And some of that is obviously try to keep it simple. It's a roll and move. How much can you do with that? You know, but a large part of it is also, I would guess, trying to keep it fun. And trying not to make it the race to the bottom that like business strategy is. I'm gonna go one more cycle and then load this up. I'm feeling a little fatigue right now and it's getting late. These, and you get the Farmer's Fate. You don't have to draw the Farmer's Fate first, but here's the problem. I just made some money, but now it's very easy to forget that I have to do this. And he gets a pile of cash for his moo cows. But again, irrelevant amounts when, you know, I could be making 50,000 off a livestock event, which is why, you know, the heavy investment in one of the more high-end products, and cows is the easier one to get there. Cows are actually fairly cheap. Fruit are 25,000 a pop. 50 cows here was like $50,000. You know. Cool, sorry, video issue there. Another thing that would be cool is something like the futures market versus a volatile market. Most farmers choose to sell on the futures market. How big a deal is that? Well, I don't know. But yeah, that helps you avoid a wipeout. Of course, that at this level, maybe you don't have that option. That's probably more of an agribusiness type thing. At this level, you probably are pretty much dependent on what they'll give you. Let's see. Bought some more grain and landed on spring planting. Good combination. Get them there. That points out, by the way, you know, the fact that we've run through, you know, the option deck, people have been buying grain and hay reasonably often, and, you know, there's huge amounts of it left. I think that's a fair sign that you are meant to reshuffle them in. But again, there's a lack of information in the rules to tell you exactly what you need to do. So in a sense, you kind of have to play the game to understand whether or not you got the intent of the rules right. It's not that terrible if you didn't reshuffle them, if you discarded all those. Of course, the game would last a whole lot longer because there's not the same kind of opportunity to keep reinvesting and getting that monetary advantage. All right, I'm going to send this up because I'm feeling beat up right now.